Hello everyone! In this lecture, we'll learn Blender's basic operations. This course is specifically designed to teach you how to work with Marvelous Designer and Blender together. Specifically, we'll cover three main areas. First, how to import garments created in Marvelous Designer into Blender. Second, how to set up materials for those garments. And third, how to create high-quality rendered images. Please note that this course doesn't cover 3D modeling or sculpting. We're focusing purely on the workflow from Marvelous Designer to rendered output. Blender is incredibly versatile and used across many industries, from film and animation to architecture and game development. However, we're going to focus exclusively on the features you need for fashion visualization, keeping things efficient and relevant. When you launch Blender, you'll see this interface. This is called the Workspace. You'll notice several tabs along the top of the screen. These allow you to switch between different workspace layouts depending on what you're doing. For this course, we'll primarily use just two workspaces: Layout and Shading. The Layout workspace is where we'll position objects and perform basic operations. The Shading workspace is where we'll set up materials and textures. We'll switch between these two as we work. Mouse operations form the foundation of working in Blender. Please note that some operations differ from those in Marvelous Designer. Let me walk you through Blender's mouse controls. Left-click selects objects. To rotate your view, hold down the middle mouse button, that's the scroll wheel, and drag. To pan the view up, down, left, or right, hold Shift while pressing the middle mouse button and dragging. And to zoom in or out, simply scroll the mouse wheel. Blender uses the numeric keypad, the numpad, for quick view switching. If your keyboard doesn't have a numpad, which is common on laptops, we'll need to enable a setting. Go to Edit, then Preferences from the top menu. In the left sidebar, click Input, then check the box for Emulate Numpad. This lets you use the regular number keys at the top of your keyboard as if they were a numpad. If your keyboard has a numpad, this setting is unnecessary. Next, enable the required add-ons. Since it comes standard with Blender, simply enabling it makes it usable. With Preferences open, select Add-ons, enter Node in Search Add-ons, and check Node Wrangler before closing the window. Node Wrangler is now enabled. You'll appreciate Node Wrangler's convenience in later tutorials. You'll find 4 circular icons in the top right corner of the viewport. These are your display mode buttons. Let me explain each mode. First, wireframe mode shows only the edges of your objects, which is great for seeing the underlying structure clearly. Second, solid mode displays objects with flat shading. This is what you'll use most during modeling work. Third, Material Preview mode gives you a real-time approximation of how your materials look, which is perfect for adjusting textures and colors. And fourth, Rendered mode shows you exactly what your final render will look like, but be aware this is the most demanding on your computer's performance. Here's a useful tip. Press the Z key to bring up a radial pie menu where you can quickly switch between these display modes. Once you get used to it, this is much faster than clicking the icons. Blender has 2 main modes. Object mode manipulates the entire object, allowing you to move, rotate, scale, and more. Edit mode edits the internal structure of the object, its vertices, edges, and faces. The Tab key toggles between object mode and edit mode. This is one of the most frequently used shortcuts in Blender, so commit it to memory. While you can also switch modes using the drop-down menu in the top left corner, using the Tab key is much more efficient. Once in edit mode, you can choose what to select and edit. you'll see three icons at the top of the screen representing the three selection modes. Vertex mode lets you select and manipulate individual points. Edge mode lets you work with the lines connecting those points. And face mode lets you select and edit the flat surfaces formed by multiple vertices and edges. Shortcut keys are indispensable for working efficiently in Blender. Here are the minimum keys you should remember. First, the basic transformation shortcuts. These are fundamental. Press G to grab and move selected objects or vertices. After pressing G, you can press X to constrain movement to just the X-axis, Y for the Y-axis, or Z for the Z-axis. Press R to rotate selected items. Just like with the Move command, you can follow it with X, Y, or Z to rotate around a specific axis. Press S to scale. That's making things bigger or smaller. Again, you can add X, Y, or Z to scale along just one axis. In edit mode, if you select a face and press E, that face will extrude, meaning it gets pulled out to create new geometry. This is incredibly useful for creating 3D shapes from flat surfaces, like turning a square into a cube. Next, let's move to the shading window. Here, you set the material for your object. Materials refer to visual properties like color, roughness, alpha, and image texture. The shader editor displays boxes called nodes. Nodes are a visual system for building materials. Each node performs a specific function, like adding color, texture, or shininess. And by connecting nodes together, you can create incredibly complex and realistic materials. When you import garments from Marvelous Designer, they already contain texture information. This texture data connects to a node called Principled BSDF, which then connects to the Material Output node. This chain is what makes your textures visible in the 3D viewport. Garments imported from Marvelous Designer come with materials already set up. However, if you create new objects directly in Blender, they won't have any materials assigned by default. You'll need to add them yourself. There are two ways to add materials. The first method is through the Properties panel. Select your object, find the Material Properties icon on the right side, it looks like a sphere, and click the New button. The second method is through the Shading workspace. Switch to Shading, select your object, and click the New button in the shader editor at the bottom. Either way, this creates the basic node setup with Principled BSDF and Material Output automatically connected. Using the node system allows you to create highly complex and beautiful materials. For example, the possibilities are endless. Metallic sheen, glass transparency, luminous materials, and complex texture composites. However, explaining the node system in detail would require a course lasting several hours. This tutorial focuses solely on the aspects necessary for rendering Marvelous Designer garments. Specifically, we'll concentrate on connecting textures, basic texture adjustments, and combining them with lighting. If you're interested in the node system, we highly recommend exploring dedicated Blender courses or tutorials.